All right, everyone, welcome to the weekend edition, the live Q&A, where we go over crypto, FX, we go over the stock market, try to figure out what happened last week, potentially what could be going on into this week. As always, if you want access to my full watch list of everything that my algorithms have spit out, along with all the details behind those, access to a chat room where I chat back and forth with you guys, make sure you go to StatsEdgeTrading.com and check that out there. Also, you can sign up via Substack if you like that as well. So, pretty wild week, but a continuation of a lot of what we saw last week. That'll be kind of the theme going forward. Last week we talked a lot about the rotation out of semiconductors, out of these large tech names, and then into small caps and into these other names. That's going to be the theme going forward this week because we just saw more of that idea of the rotation from your Nvidias, your AI names, your Microsofts, all of that, and then again into smaller tech names. And we're seeing some of that with crypto as well. So we're going to start here with Bitcoin, which is actually making a little bit of a move right here and actually doing so right now. I guess there's something going on in Texas where Trump is going to be speaking about Bitcoin. So that might be what we're seeing here when we talk about what's going on here with all this. So nice little move right off the bottom. I talked about how this area of resistance was punctured and then broken. And I remember I talked about that last week with only 1 or 2 days to go and said, hey, we had a nice little potential fake out here and that we could see higher prices. That's exactly what ended up happening. And now we're back to the high end of this range. Remember, this is all-time highs here for Bitcoin. So this all-time high anchored VWAP right here from this candle, which was our prior all-time high, seems to be acting, if we go into the daily chart, seems to be acting as support on this pullback. We held that, and again, nice push off of that and an attempt to break out of this range. So all eyes are on this. Everyone in the world's watching, not just me, that we need to see what happens if we can get through this price. We had been talking for a long time about the Ethereum outperformance on the way down, but now we're also getting Ethereum underperformance on the way up, where we did have that big push that we saw before, where Bitcoin was selling off, Ethereum was actually holding really strong. Again, that is now reversed, where we have Bitcoin potentially very close to new all-time highs, and then Ethereum nowhere near those all-time highs. So Bitcoin continues to be king. Easiest way to look at this, you can always just compare the two. You can go Bitcoin. So this is the price of Bitcoin in Ethereum. So if this is going up, then we know that Bitcoin is outperforming Ethereum. If it's going down, we know the reverse is happening. And it just this week was this massive move between, right? This what pullback week was when we had Ethereum doing very well as Bitcoin was selling, and now that's reversing. Looks like this trend is going to continue. Bitcoin's going to remain king for now, anyway. So that's what I'm watching. So I am excited. Full disclosure, I am long a little bit of Bitcoin, but if we push through here, I may be looking to get involved more. Always seems to happen on the weekend, crazy as that is. Looking at the dollar, nothing really happened last week at all. We had this just tiny little inside week. Talked about how right here on the dollar uh, we had this area of support right here that we push down and then we bounce. We need to see this resolve one way or the other here on the dollar. Nothing happened this week that will tell us anything. If anything, though, this to me is just more confirmation on how important this level, right? Call it 104.10 on the dollar index is, right? Support, 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 and then breaks through, but then continues to hold. So 104.10 on the dollar index is what I'm watching going forward to kind of make a decision one way or the other. We finally had the yen selling off, and we can do USD yen. This is really the only major theme that I see here right now is this yen. I talked about it for a long time, how essentially the Bank of Japan put their foot down and said, we are not going to let the yen continuously sell off day after day, week after week, month after month. And this was the first time that they came in and propped up their currency. And we came back through that level. I said, hey, is this something that we're going to see them come back in and step up and defend their currency? looks like that's what happened again. Now, what's very interesting is we came right down to the anchored VWAP from this major swing low. We also came down to the breakout area of kind of 152 area and then bounced really hard from there. So this last attempt, this again, just while we're looking at history, this last attempt for the Bank of Japan to step in and defend their currency failed miserably. Question is, now that we're right back at that level, right back at a major anchor VWAP point, is the market going to flip the bird to the Bank of Japan and say, we don't care. We're going to continue to short your currency, this carry trade, which I could do a video on if anyone wants me to talk about the carry trade. We could see that going in that direction as well. I want to just talk a little bit about the pound because the pound is pulling back on a weekly chart to this prior breakout area. Again, a little bit of a flip of what we're going to see in the dollar index. So, this to me is a pretty clear watch for next week. I just want to see what's going to occur right as we come into this area right now and see if we get a bounce from that zone. So, watching the dollar to see if, or watching the yen versus a bunch of currencies, see if that bounces, and then also watching cable to see if cable bounces as well now that it's come into this zone and there is some potential support there for cable. Quick look at gold and silver. Again, just continues to be choppy action right here on gold. We've been talking about this for a long time. We went out to the monthly chart. Stay tuned because I'll be doing monthly charts next week when we do have the rollover of the month. That the topping tails up here had me kind of move to cash on gold. I had taken another kind of quick trade as we held this anchored VWAP and started to move higher on gold. Got out some in this spike and then just got out the rest for break even as it came back down. But really kind of zooming out, we're just seeing an overall giant mess here on gold. And it's just, you just got to wait. Like, there's times you can see the same thing happened here on the dollar, in which we have this zone going right here, and it's just fighting with that area, and it did that for a very long time, and then it broke, and it could do the same thing here as well. So I'm just not super excited for gold very much. Now, silver to me is a little bit more concerning because we have this very important level of resistance right here on silver. We end up breaking through that level and then coming back down. Silver is a little bit more concerning for me just because, again, we're having this potential top in which these prior highs we broke through. It looked very bullish there, and then we've come back down. We failed in that zone. So this could be a very a bull trap, a failed breakout, whatever it is, and we could move lower here on silver. So I am watching silver very closely for a potential short next week. Gold again, just trapped in the range. Silver, I think, could end up being played from the short side. Now, just going in and looking at the overall market, it continues to be the same theme of we have the SPY on the weekly chart here pulling back, actually putting in a nice bottoming tail. But if we go into the RSP, that did fantastically closing it high. So again, the SPY, the SPY is the SP 500, which is cap weighted. So it's just putting more of a burden on Nvidia and all the names we know, Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, all of that. The RSP shows us an equal distribution of what the overall health of the stocks are doing. And when you have the RSP moving higher and then you have the SPY moving lower, it's just basically showing you that large cap names are selling off. People are rotating or buying those lower cap names, even in the S&P 500, which is a small cap index. You can see more of this if you take a look at the IWM, which is a great look on the weekly chart where it had this topping tail, but it just reversed most of that this week. If we go into the daily chart here, then it's a nice looking potential bull flag right here on the daily chart. So that's what I'm watching when it comes to the same idea for stocks. You're seeing it all over the place. We can take a look quick at XLC, which is going to XLC is going to have like Microsoft as one of its largest component. That's selling off here. That's selling off here as well after hitting this prior high. But then we have sectors like the XRT or the retail ETF that actually closed positive this week, and it looks like it's potentially putting in a flag to have a breakout showing. Again, money is going to other places. In this case, retail. We have XLF, which is financials. right? A nice strong week last week, again, showing this rotation continuing from large techs, right? Semis down, financials up, retail up, that kind of thing. It makes perfect sense with what we're seeing. The Dow, which again is not a big cap heavy sector, that is a perfect example as well. We broke 400, we came down, we tested it kind of to the tick, and then started to move higher there on that as well. Commodities, you can see right above my head here, wheat down, corn down, natural gas down, where everything else was doing well. So we're in this market now where there are winners and there are losers. And for traders and for people who are right not obsessed with just trading the big tech names or guessing where they're going, this is perfect for us. This is exactly what we want to see because it means we can be long some names, we can be short some names. Hopefully, we can make money from both sides. One thing I wanted to look at, last thing here, last sector, and kind of my discretionary stock pick that I'm going to watch next week is this TAN, the solar index. So we have TAN. Uh, and if we go back out, you can see we had this prior high right here in TAN that caused that was the high of the 2020 sell off. Then we had this massive spike in 2021, and then we've come down, and that level has been resistance here or support here for a very long time. It's all the way when we're talking October 23. We've started with the support here on TAN. So if this can hold and this starts to push higher, I want to take a look, and I want to take a look at names like First Solar. First Solar is looking fantastic here with a massive push up. It's pulled back, but if you look at this chart and you compare it to TAN or the solar ETF at large, this is relatively strong. It's where I want to look at. Now we have earnings on Tuesday, so we just need to make sure that we're not in there. We see what happens after earnings. Potentially we take a trade if again this whole solar ETF can hold on. So thank you all for coming by. I greatly appreciate it. As always, make sure you go over to StatsEdgeTrading.com, try out StatsEdge Pro. It'll be 20 symbols that all have back-tested results that you can take a look at. You can use your discretion on top of those. You can join the chat room. You can join the live Q&A, which we'll be doing at the end of every month. You can do all of that over at StatsEdgeTrading.com and StatsEdge Pro. So I will talk to you guys next week.